So this guy right now, Trump, well, he's a criminal. He's a criminal enterprise. You look at even just the obvious records that are available. And now from information that we've gathered, we can say he owes a lot of money to the Russian mafia. He's sort of being blackmailed for all his monies because of his ties to the Russian mafia. Prove me wrong. That's what I say. Prove me wrong. He's got to disclose his financial information. He won't do that. It would easily show his criminality and his completely fraudulent business empire that's run on debt, fraud, and then borrowing here and there again. It's like a big Ponzi scheme. You borrow here to pay a little bit back on there, and you keep going. But it's in the millions of dollars. So we can say, what the hell? We can say from what we know. He's owned by the Russian mafia. Prove us wrong. Prove us wrong. We can say that Putin of Russia and his oligarchs, they call them, which are really just super rich criminals that are all around Putin. Putin's just a criminal enterprise, right? You understand that, right? And all these oligarchs are just like big crime family bosses of territories and parts of the economy. And Trumpy boy has had to borrow here and there because he's such a foolish, fraudulent enterprise. And it's kept him going. So he can't disclose his taxes, which he doesn't pay, because he just writes everything off. The lawyers figure out how to write everything off so he doesn't pay, so he doesn't help you at all. He doesn't contribute tax money that goes to schools, education, health care, highways, bridge construction. The infrastructure of our country is paid because we all invest in it. And we invest in it through our tax system. That we're supposed to put money in so we get things back to benefit us. Well, not Trump. Not corporate criminals like Trump. Because right now, you can look it up, 60% of corporations don't pay taxes. They don't contribute to America. They just rip you off, just like Trump. Now you just got to look at the facts. And you can easily say, well, from what we know, even already, this guy's a complete criminal enterprise. And everybody around him who gets involved with him is he's like a toxic waste dump. That everybody who gets near him gets burned, gets exposed. Remember the physician guy that he had, a personal physician guy who said that, Trump's in great health. He's really in great health. Remember that one? And so Trumpy boy turns around and appoints this guy to be head of the Veterans Administration. A multi-billion-dollar operation to take care of our veterans. And this physician guy has no experience of running something on that scale. And in fact, it turns out he's pretty incompetent as a doctor anyway. And kind of maybe a drunk or very even the bit of administration he does in his own little way, he was completely incompetent in. So that comes out. He gets burned by being around Trump. And so he drops out. He removes his name from consideration for head of the VA. There's that other guy who's part of Trump's little coterie of assistants. And he got found out that his criminal enterprise part that he was doing had to pay a fine and whatnot. He got exposed. He got burned. But Trumpy boy, he could continue on in the Trump gang. And he did. Over and over and over again, everyone around this guy turns out to be completely airhead, criminal, inept, fraudulent. Betsy DeVos gets put in as head of education. She has no experience in the scale of education. She has no history of really knowing education at all. She's just a right-wing Christian wacko who wants to segregate, wants to keep those minorities away from the white people. She wants to put in religious, right-wing wacko religious crap back into schools. Well, that's what comes out. She shows that she's completely inept. She gets an interview with on CBS News and completely shows that she's just an airhead, has no understanding of education. Burned again by Trump. Over and over and over again, the people around him get exposed as who they are. Incompetents. Right-wing wackos. Destroyers of your rights. There's this wacko guy who is only a right-wing radio talk show nut from somewhere in the Midwest. And Trump wanted to appoint him in to be head of science, a science department in the U.S. government. Absolutely no background in science. His only thing, he's a right-wing wacko, and he's a denier of climate change. That's all. It quickly was pointed out this guy has no background and all this stuff, so he got bounced. Got burned again. Well, that wasn't the end of him. Trump just moved him over to another position in a different department where he didn't really need the oversight and exposure of a Senate confirmation. This Trump thing is showing just what Republicans are. It isn't just Trump. It's what Republicans are. A criminal enterprise. Right-wing nuts. Christian fascists. Destroyers of your civil rights. Of course they want to deny climate change. Because who doesn't want it to change? Doesn't want to face the change and the actuality of climate change. Corporations who are poisoning and polluting you don't want to face the music that their systems have been poisoning and polluting your air, your water, your land, and therefore have to either change dramatically. That would cost them money. That would hurt their profits. And their profits are far more important than you, according to Republicans. According to Republicans, profits are more important than you. So they're the ones who are, the corporations are the backgrounds who are saying, climate change, it doesn't happen, it's not happening, oh no, that's just made up. And they push it through who? The right-wing propaganda networks of the talk show radio nuts or the Fox News fraud, you know. I mean, everybody should know. I mean, it should be pretty obvious that if you say, well, you saw it on Fox News, that what you're saying is you heard it on right-wing news. Because that's all it is. Fox News is just intentionally right-wing nut propaganda. That's just how it is. That's who created it. Remember? Roger Ailes? He was a friend of Nixon, the criminal, another Republican criminal, Nixon. And Roger Ailes intentionally set up Fox News to be right-wing Republican propaganda. You're just, that's what it is. And we all should know that. So when you say it's who's the news source, where did you hear that from? Well, it was Fox News. Well, then everybody knows, oh yeah, right-wing nut propaganda. That's just knowing the facts, right? Knowing how it is. So when we look at this thing currently of Trump, what you're really seeing is what is the Republican Party? What is the agenda of the Republican Party? The Republican Party has tried to make up. They made up, oh, there's voter fraud. No, there isn't. There never has been. And the examples are in such minuscule numbers as to have made no impact on elections. None. But right-wing nuts through Fox News are trying to tell you, oh, there's voter fraud, oh, there's voter fraud. So, to try and justify Republican voter ID laws, which when they're taken to court about it and have to define and defend and what is the actual law saying, you find out that Republican voter ID law is really just there to keep you from voting, from being able to vote. Because Republican agenda cannot stand the light of day, cannot stand open investigation, cannot stand an equal or wide open, just popular vote. They lose. Because you find out, hey, Republicans are actually out to destroy you, actually out to hurt you and your kids. Poison and pollution. Segregation, repression, denial. That's what Republicans are showing by their legislation, by their economic agenda. It's all against you. So, of course, they got to stop you from voting. They got to stop you getting that information of what really is going on. So, of course, Republicans have been saying since the criminal Nixon, oh, the news media, it's just got a bias. It's just got a liberal bias. Remember? Spiro Agnew? He was the vice president under Nixon, and he's the one who overtly started saying, oh, that news media has just, you can't trust them. And they have a liberal bias, they're just... Well, it turns out, of course, if you look at the history there, Spiro Agnew had to resign the vice presidency because he was a criminal. Typical Republican criminal. And two, They didn't like it. Spiro was just saying what Nixon was saying, what Republicans were already saying, is that Republican policy can't stand an open, clear investigation of what Republican legislation and economics is really doing, is really about. So they had to start hiding it, deflecting, saying, oh, that information you're getting about that, oh, that's just not, they had to. And it has to continually, every Republican administration after that has been chastising news media because it continually points out the fact of Republican fraud, lies, of Republican efforts to repress, segregate, of Republican efforts to expand the poison and pollution of you and your family, the poison and pollution of your air, your water, your food supply. So Republicans can't stand and allow you to have an open information like that with an independent news reporting. Oh no. So they just had to start that propaganda going. It's been going a long time since old Spiro, criminal Nixon and criminal Spiro Agnew got it going overtly. And say, oh, that's just fake news. That's just not true. You're not really, that's not what's happening. That's just, Of course they had to. Republican agenda, when you look at it, when you look at the facts, when you look at what they actually vote for, what they actually support as a legislation, consistently is out to hurt you and your kids and your family. And Trump, boy, is just the toxic waste dump of what is Republican.